Welcome to the Dr. Mama Says podcast, where you will hear a variety of timeless tips on parenting and healthcare. Thank you so much for joining today, and now it's time to get on with the show.
Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Burton, the host and creator of the Dr. Mama Says podcast. I wanted to chat today about something that many parents are frantic about right now because it's October. But guess what? Halloween comes every October, but somehow we don't think about it until it's September. But by that time, parents need to run out to store and pay ridiculous amounts of money on a Halloween costume. I've listened to so many parents in my office who are discussing with their kids what type of costumes are going to be purchased for trick-or-treating. The struggle is real. Well, let me just put this out there. If you wait until the middle of October to buy a costume, you're often going to spend way too much money. Life is expensive enough. Wouldn't you like to save money where you can? Yep, me too. Raising kids is like juggling. I mean, there's always some balls in the air, and it can be difficult to avoid dropping one. And much of the time, it's always been about planning. So we have to change our thought processes if we want to see some different results. So even though Halloween is coming around the corner this year, this particular episode is intended to be used year-round to help parents keep some of these concepts in their mind because in the long run, this is going to be very helpful. Planning is key, and the tips that I'm going to share today will help you to plan better. Because I was there, and after dropping lots of balls that ended up costing me a lot of money or time, I started doing proactive parenting instead of reacting. I mean, do you forget your child's birthday? Do you have to run out the night before to buy a birthday present? Usually no. How about a Christmas gift? I know, there's many people out there who are just big last-minute shoppers. But be honest, you know you spend way more money on those last-minute gifts because, well, you don't have time to look for a better deal. The reason I think that birthdays and Christmas shopping is usually done early is because kids are always thinking about these special days. They might even constantly be making lists of presents that they want. But Halloween? It's not really a holiday, so it's usually not thought about until the weather gets colder, scarecrows, bales of hay everywhere. That's when you think about it. But guess what? That tends to be a little bit too late. Now, to be clear, there are plenty of things that I forgot until the last minute, but I tried to avoid the last-minute scramble as much as possible. For instance, each year when school started, I would take out that school calendar and put on the family calendar a list of the dates. Let me just say for a minute, if you don't have a family calendar, get one. Everyone has a separate list of things that they need to do in their own personal calendars, but do you have a place where everybody's activities, dates, and commitments are in one place? Without it, chaos can happen. Ask me how I know. There may or may not have been issues with double-booked birthday parties or competing commitments. Just get into the habit of having a master list of activities and commitments. No more surprises when there's suddenly a teacher work day that you weren't aware about and your child's not in school. I also added all the dates and times for sporting events, the games, recitals, school vacation dates. Trust me when I say that adding these dates as soon as they're known can be life-saving. Telling yourself that you're going to do it later? Yeah, well, we know how that often turns out. My personal work schedule was also added on the family calendar so I could see any conflicts and try to plan in advance. My kids learned that last-minute requests often didn't fit the calendar and might not get done. So there was always a race to put the birthday party dates or other activities on the calendar. Yes, I helped teach my kids the value of being proactive. We had a rule: first come, first serve. If kids asked to do something on the weekend, the first question I asked was, is it on the calendar? I will say this every day because it's true. Parenting is hard, and getting help wherever you can is important. So I taught my kids to help. Help me to help you. If you want me to drive you somewhere or buy a birthday present for your friend, then you need to give me a heads up, time to prepare. Put it on the calendar. Definitely took some of the stress off of me. Kids cannot do everything they want. That's a fact, and parents need to say no. In the show notes, I put a link to one of my physician colleagues' posts that was recently shared in the New York Times in the parenting section, and it talks about how saying no is a form of parental self-care. So be sure to adding no on your list of things to do from time to time. I cannot tell you how many parents in my office are surprised when they try to schedule surgery or an office visit for their child and then have to call back and say, "Oh, I didn't know it was a school holiday. We'll be out of town." Or they're saying, "Oh, it's an important time for testing in school." Those dates are all known. You want to put that in a calendar where you have access to it, because these last-minute surprises are really adding unnecessary stress to you. Life is filled with unexpected, non-preventable problems, so fix the ones you can. Now, in general, kids love Halloween season. Fall festivals, hay rides, that trip to the pumpkin patch, and combine that with some parties and trick-or-treating. Oh yeah, this is a great season. Halloween costumes should be the cherry on top, not an additional burden. Let's agree to find a way to take the stress out of getting those outfits ready. So now I want to share some of my top tips to save money on the Halloween costumes. When my kids were young, I had to develop this strategy to help me to save money every year, because by the time October 31st came by, I had been spending way too much money on costumes. And most of the time they were worn once because the kids were so young. I still see parents making that same mistake, and I'm here to help. The key? Planning ahead. Yes, life is busy, but remember how we discussed planning ahead for birthdays and Christmas? Well, that's because there are expensive gifts that you need to buy. Halloween is also a time when you need to buy expensive gifts, which are costumes. It's never too late to begin saving money on these costumes. Also, as a spoiler alert, just want to let you know that kids will often need/want more than one costume, since there can be activities at school, a couple of different Halloween parties, and then trick-or-treating. Some of the tips I'm going to share are going to help you how to be prepared for all of these activities. And one more thing, I'm basically talking about Halloween costumes for your kids. But did you know in 2018 that pet costumes were a huge business and sold over $1 billion? What? Are you kidding? Who knew? Well, anyway, on to my tips. My first tip is a bit obvious, but parents with kids who are spaced out in age often forget about it. But hand-me-downs and repeat wearing of outfits really needs to be a thing. I grew up with my sister's hand-me-downs, and I became a pro at saving things from my oldest daughter to share with my youngest. I do understand the need to avoid repeat wearing the same outfit for the same child, but even if it still fits the next year, you might want to use some of my other tips to help spruce it up and make it a little bit different. I took pictures of my girls in one of my favorite costumes I ever bought for them. By the way, it was the most expensive one I ever bought as well, and I made sure that they wore that costume till the wheels fell off. I had to get my money's worth. Never again did I spend that kind of money on Halloween. But this led to my game of who wore it better, and you can see a picture of my girls wearing the same lamb chop costume when they both were toddlers. The next thing you want to do is consider trading your costumes with classmates or friends. This is a great tradition if you have some friends with kids around similar age and size, and it increases a pool of options for parties and other activities. For older kids, at least for girls, trading their party dresses became a thing because special occasion dresses like for prom or homecoming usually were not repeated, so the trading system was common. I just suggest you might start that a little bit younger and do that with Halloween. Bonus points for sharing with friends who do not go to school with your child or don't live nearby. That's a great opportunity to get fresh eyes on a new outfit. Also, be sure to check out the big box or discount stores and dollar stores. I used to visit the party stores and those pop-up Halloween shops. The prices were out of this world. There was a great selection, and it was so enticing to look at them all. But back in the day, there was not a Walmart or a Target on every corner, and the options at Costco and Sam's weren't that great. Definitely look at these places instead of going to those cute niche specialty stores. The next tip is for those of you who've already bought a costume this year, but you want to be ready for the future. So be sure to buy cheap costumes in November and save them in a costume bin. The day after holidays rule in terms of savings. Who hasn't seen aisles and aisles of Easter candy on a Monday? Or the fire sale of Christmas decorations on December 26th? Well, if you have small kids, you need to put shopping on November 1st on your calendar to go every year. I know you may want to involve your child in deciding what they want to be next year, but we decided what our kids were wearing based on what was on sale and what they already had. Then it was my job all year to figure out how to sell it and make it enticing, so by the time they were wearing that costume, they were hyped up as if they had chose it themselves. This is the time, November 1st and later, is when you run to Party City and to the pop-up shops where they are dumping their inventory. In fact, often I didn't buy whole costumes, but it was a great time to stock up on extra wigs, wands, masks, things that can be used as an accessory to add an upgrade to a costume and make it pop. Another thing I like to do is to personalize the costumes by involving kids in arts and crafts. By decorating them and making them unique, that can breathe new life into an otherwise not-so-exciting costume. I always enjoyed using the weekends to do arts and crafts projects with my girls, just because, but it was a bonus when our art sessions were for a purpose, like making Christmas presents for their friends or updating and personalizing the Halloween costumes. I mean, even taking a basic witch's costume, there's nothing like putting some orange puffy paint on the hat or on the cape to make it more exciting. Think about plain aspects of a costume that you have and find a way to jazz it up with some supplies from Hobby Lobby. So right here, I want to take a minute and give a shout out to another thing that many people suggest you can do to personalize costumes, and that is that they say to make the costume yourself. Well, yes, that is indeed an option, but let me tell you, it is not for the faint of heart. I did it one year and then never again. I did it from scratch. And I still recall it because it was awful and time-consuming, but they loved it. It was a memory that we'll always share, and in my show notes, I added a picture of my accomplishments showing my girls wearing my handiwork, and I must say I am proud of my work. But was it worth it? Not really. But if you love to sew, then go ahead and add that to your to-do list. But it just added unnecessary stress to me, so I prefer to bedazzle and paint something already made. Next, be sure to check out those thrift stores and consignment stores for some old Halloween costumes. But do not wait until the fall. Finding those nearly new or heavily discounted Halloween costumes is always a great thing. But the key is not to start looking in the fall. Many have already been picked over and you won't find much success. Christmas in July is a thing, and I suggest Halloween in July become your thing. Getting a jump start this time of year when no one else is thinking about it gives you more time to plan. Some parents do sell their costumes, and it's a great way to make a few extra dollars, but it's not one of my favorite recommendations. Why? Because of my next tip that says, keep the accessories from your old costumes because they can be good for life. I wish I had known this little gem of a tip earlier. Princess wands and lumberjack axes, they're going to always be the same. Do not get rid of them when the costume is too small or passed on to another deserving child. I can tell you that once I embraced this concept, I saved money for years. I'm talking about in high school, when in English or history class, dressing up was important, all the way through themed events in college. In fact, I may or may not still have the orange costume bin in my basement. Who am I kidding? Of course I still have it. There is nothing like having my adult daughter swing by the house to browse through my storage bin to find a wig to wear for a gathering with her friends. Who needs to spend money on a wig for a night when we have a collection that stood the test of time? Plus, I got the bonus of having a visit and dinner with my daughter. Win-win. So think sheriff badges, capes, masks, wigs, witches' hats, pirate eye patch. These accessories will be priceless for years to come. Now, one of my most favorite tips is to practice the art of face painting and do it throughout the year so you are awesome by the time Halloween rolls around. Of course, I didn't know this early on, as evidenced by the picture that I shared of my girls wearing lamb chop. My daughter still looks at this and says, "What were you thinking with that makeup?" She said it looks like she'd eaten a small animal because there's so much red stuff around her mouth. So clearly I didn't do a good job with the face paint. I missed the mark, but I definitely upped my game over time. Every costume is better with makeup, but Halloween makeup tends to be cheesy. You need some good face paint that can make a simple costume become a fancy costume. Also, face painting is a great skill to have for birthday parties and just random things to do on the weekend. You don't have to be great at it, but the effort is not lost on your kids. On my show notes, take a look at one of the pictures I shared of some birthday party face painting that I did. It is not stellar in any way, shape, or form, but look at those smiling faces. They were very, very happy with it. And my last tip is please, please do not ask your child what specific Halloween costume they want. I know many parents ask their kids what they want to be, and you can expect them to want the latest, greatest trend or the heavily marketed character, and you can best bet that's going to cost you a pretty penny. I always asked what type of outfit they liked and requested that they give me a range of options. Then, based on what I found, I came home and sold it. Look what I found! What a great deal! This is key. You must have enthusiasm over your purchases and share how you're going to decorate it or mix and match with other accessories and make it a unique outfit. Full disclosure, I also asked my kids to give me general categories for Christmas presents. Oh, you want a Barbie? Not the specific workout Barbie. Oh, you want Elmo? Oh yeah, but not the specific Tickle Me Elmo that everybody in the early 2000s stood in line for hours to get for their kids. Nope. My kids got Elmo, but it was Elmo something else, and they survived. Parenting is hard enough without making it extra stressful. I added a little bonus section in the show notes where I discussed how Halloween can help you improve your child's behavior. I'm not sure about your holiday traditions, but many kids live and breathe for Christmas when Santa Claus is going to come to visit. Everyone knows Santa has a naughty and a nice list. Kids are usually on their best behavior during the entire month of December to avoid being put on that dreaded naughty list. Well, I personally think parents deserve to use this concept for other special days, just to eke out a few more weeks or even a few more days of good behavior. I didn't plan this strategy, it just kind of happened, kind of like a self-defense mechanism. You can check out the details in the show notes and read one of my earlier blogs where I shared 5 tips for awesome Halloween behavior in your kids. Now, even though this episode may be coming out after you've already spent a full paycheck on costumes for all of your kids and your pets, I am hopeful that my tips will be able to help you in the years to come, because if you haven't started doing some of these things, you will thank me later. I hope I make you smile in the future when your high school child needs to dress up for a class project and you're able to pull out the accessory that makes that outfit pop. Just a little Tupperware container stored in the corner can make life a little bit easier in the years to come. So this looks like a great place to end. If you enjoyed this episode or any of my other episodes, I would love for you to share my information with a friend. The more the merrier. Thanks for tuning in. For now, I gotta go. Until the next time.
I truly want to thank you for spending your time listening to Dr. Mama Says, because without you, there would be no podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard, please go to Apple Podcasts or wherever you go to listen to your podcast and consider leaving a 5-star rating. This will help gain the support needed to continue bringing new and exciting content. To review information presented in any episode, a summary of the show can always be found online at drmamasays.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe if you've not done so already. Hope you come back and listen again soon.